So I was saying last night that I've never spent more time preparing for a message and felt less prepared. um, I grew up in the Mormon church, which has nothing to do with my message at all. But there's a joke that we used to tell. There was this kid that brought his friend to church. And the Mormon church always has guest speakers that come in. And they're from authority from higher up somewhere, and they come in. And so the little friend was asking his buddy, what does this mean? What does that mean? Every time anything happens, he says, what does that mean? What does that mean? So the guest speaker gets up there and he takes off his watch and he looks at it and looks over at the clock on the wall and he looks at his watch again. He sets the watch down and makes sure it's set just right. And then he gets ready to speak and the kid goes, what does that mean? And the friend says, absolutely nothing. Usually when I speak, we're either out of here in 10 minutes or we're out of here in an hour and a half. So I don't know which way this is going to go today. But I had some thoughts that I wanted to share with you. What's your favorite part of the new year? What is it? Okay. All right, that's good. Football, there you go. That's a good one. One person last night said resolutions, and I said, really? You do you, because that's probably my least favorite part. In fact, whose idea were New Year's resolutions anyway? I'm pretty convinced it's the fitness industry's way of boosting sales in January. In fact, a friend of mine said that what he wanted to do was open a new gym that for the first 3 weeks of the year would be a workout facility, and then it converted to a bar, and it stayed that way the rest of the time. More long-term memberships. It's really common for us to talk about New Year's goals, New Year's resolutions. I kind of avoid the R word. Resolutions have become such a cliche. But it's good to talk about goals. The beginning of the year, we talk about what's going to happen for the next year and set some goals. How many of you guys set goals last year for 2018? Okay, a few. Good. More than last night. How many reached those goals? Well, congratulations. Good job. I've been employing, instead of setting specific things, I've been employing this one-word strategy. It actually started here at Impact for me, and then I've been fortunate enough to get to give this message for, I guess this is the third year in a row. And at least a couple of those have been about that one word where I kind of carried that tradition forward from the person that did it, that I heard it from. But to tell you the truth, last year got so weird for me that I forgot what my one word was, and I had to go back and look it up, which I guess is a good reason for keeping a blog, because I can do that. I can go back and look up what my goals were. And really, I had two main goals for last year. One of them was to run a bunch of races, some crazy distances. And the other one was to let God run my life and to step out of the way and really just let him be in charge. Well, I failed miserably at both of those goals. I didn't achieve either one of them. I actually started out the year okay. I ran a 10-mile race on January 1st. I ran three 50K races. It's 31 miles. So that brought me into April. And in June, I made an attempt at a 100K race, 62 miles, and I didn't achieve that. I wasn't able to get that done. I hadn't trained enough. I hadn't prepared enough. In fact, in a lot of ways, last year was really frustrating for me. Now, don't get me wrong. There's two things that I want you to know as I say this. One is there were a lot of good things that happened last year. A lot of good things. And there were some good things about the year. But there was kind of a theme for me of frustration for the year. And it kind of started to wear on me. It kind of started to weigh me down. And so the other thing that I want to tell you is I'm going to tell you about my year, not because I want you to see how miserable my life is, because it's not. I realize that there are a lot of people, and perhaps some of you, who have had a lot rougher year than I have. But I want to share with you how these things affected me, because your things may be affecting you the same way. And I think I learned something about how to deal with that. And so I'll get to your notes in a minute. If you notice the note card that you have is basically blank. You can write whatever you want. There's 1, 2, 3 with a few lines for each one and a finally. And I'll get to that finally and I'll get to the 1, 2, 3. But really I couldn't decide. I've got 3 things that God has told us to do and 3 ways that we can do it. You can write down whichever 3 of those you want or however you want to keep your notes. But it's pretty open. But what I want to share with you is that, so I started the year pretty good. I was reaching some goals, but then I started feeling overwhelmed. I am a high school teacher. I have spent all of my coaching career, all of my teaching career coaching, softball and then soccer. I was really excited about coaching because we were trying to build a program. Soccer at our school has not been a dominant sport like some of the others. Basketball goes to state championship almost every year. Softball wins the section championship every year and is nationally ranked. Soccer is also there. And so we were hoping to start building a program to try to build that up, and we had some plans. But it became really obvious very early in the year that my head coach, the head varsity coach, didn't really like me being there. And it became a very frustrating season for me. And that started kind of weighing me down. And then because I became overwhelmed, I wasn't training as much. I wasn't doing as many of my runs. When you're trying to run 62 miles in a given day, and you've gone from running 4 days a week plus a long run on the weekends to running twice a week and sleeping in on the weekends, that 62-mile race becomes really difficult. And so my training became inconsistent. My work became frustrating. Even coaching became a chore. I wasn't enthused about it anymore. And as it turns out, at the end of the year, I was fired from my coaching job. And that was a really frustrating moment for me because I actually became a high school teacher because I wanted to coach. That was my reason for teaching. So now I'm questioning, why am I even a teacher? Why do I want to do this? I applied for a different position at the school, and I was surprised to find out that the reason I didn't get it, and my vice principal told me this, the reason I didn't get it is because apparently I tend to rub people the wrong way, and people don't like working with me. And that was really hard for me to deal with. I've actually gone to a lot of people that I work with since then, and apparently, I don't know how many people I rubbed the wrong way. That wouldn't surprise me too much. But none of the people that I like to work with are rubbed the wrong way by me, so I'm okay with that. But it was still really upsetting for her to tell me this. I started filling my time with lots of projects. I tend to do that anyway. If I've got a spare couple of minutes, I'll start a new project. And I started filling my time with lots of projects, which accomplished a couple of things. First of all, I did get some things done, but a lot of things are left unfinished or partially finished or not done as well as I wanted them to do. And I continued to get more and more frustrated. I got sloppy and almost cut my finger off on the table saw, which that'll also put a crimp in your running because you can't run with a throbbing hand. I know it doesn't seem like it should affect me, but it did. So this all became more and more overwhelming. In fact, when the school year started and soccer started and I wasn't involved, I felt incredibly empty. Now, it doesn't matter what your goals were or what you were trying to achieve or what the cause of it is, but I think that all of us at one time or another feel incredibly empty. In fact, I actually thought of taking my own life a couple of times. I just thought that would be an easier way. I didn't have a purpose. I didn't have an intent. Fortunately, I have a good circle of friends. I have people that I can talk to. I could talk to my wife. I called my doctor up and I said, hey, I'm having a rough time. And so he put me back on meds. And I'm trying to run again because running is kind of the thing that boosts my serotonin. It keeps me up. And so with that being removed from my life by my own frustration, then I needed a little extra help. it finally occurred to me that God was trying to get me to take a break. And that some of these things were being taken off of my plate because I needed a rest. Honestly, it's not easy for me to take a break. I'm pretty much going all the time. If I take a break, I feel like I'm not doing anything. And I guess that's kind of the point. But a couple of months ago, some good friends of ours noticed how busy we are. My wife and I are always off doing something on the weekends especially. And they said, don't you ever take a day or a weekend where you just don't do anything? And I thought, no, why would we do that? But it did make me start thinking about that rest was the thing that was missing. That I actually needed to take a break. And so as I was thinking about this, I came up with two sets of three. So here's where your notes come in if you want. First of all, there are three reasons from the Bible that we need rest. Okay? And those could be your three things. But afterwards, I'm going to give you three things you can do in order to get rest. So you can write down whichever three or combination of those you want. But the first reason that it's clear that we need rest is that even God rested. In Genesis chapter 2, it says, on the seventh day, God finished his work that he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work that he had done. So God blessed the seventh day and made it holy because on it, God rested from all his work that he had done in creation. You see, even God, after he completed his task, took a break. But it tells us elsewhere that he didn't actually need to rest. He just did. In Isaiah chapter 40, verse 28, the prophet tells us, have you not known, have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He does not faint or grow weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives power to the faint, and to him who has no might, he increases strength. See, our God of infinite power and wisdom took a rest after his labor. He made that a principle and a commandment for us all. He didn't need to rest, but he did because he knew it was a good thing to do. Number two, God actually commands us to rest. It's one of the 10 commandments. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God, and on it you shall not do any work. You, your son, your daughter, your male servant, your female servant, your livestock, the sojourner who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. And in Leviticus chapter 19, he goes on, he says, observe my Sabbaths and have reverence for my sanctuary. I am the Lord. So I started looking more into Sabbath. You know, Sabbath and sabbatical both come from the same root word as the word for seven. Seven's a pretty important number to God. And in fact, the whole law of the Sabbath includes much more than going to church on Sunday. What it really means is that one day in every 7, we're supposed to rest and dedicate to God. But it also means that 1 week in every 7 weeks, we are supposed to rest and dedicate to God. And in fact, 1 year every 7 years, we're supposed to rest and dedicate that to God. But then, I don't know, you know how the Pharisees got all caught up in the Sabbath day and made it so legalistic. But Jesus kind of clears that up, and this is the third reason that we should rest from the Bible. It says that Jesus offers us rest. In fact, in Mark chapter 2, Jesus says, the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath. So the Pharisees had kind of flipped that around, where if you picked up something that you shouldn't pick up on the Sabbath, you were stoned. You were cast out of the temple. It was a capital offense. But Jesus says, no. The idea is that the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. In fact, my big idea verse for today in Matthew chapter 11, Jesus says, come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Now I'm trying to picture Jesus, whose burden is that he took on the sins of the world and all of our suffering, and he still has the strength to turn to us and say, my burden is light. Rest in me. And in Hebrews chapter 4, the writer of Hebrews says, now we who have believed enter that rest, just as God said. You know, rest is good for our spirit. Rest is good for our mind. Rest is good for our body. So how do we rest in God? My dad is fond of the saying that many people believe in Jesus, but very few people believe Jesus. And there's a subtle difference. We need to believe him when he says that he loves us. We need to believe him when he says that he cares for us, that he has hope for us, that he is concerned about us and our circumstances. We need to actually believe him. So when he says, come rest in me, we need to believe that. And that's the first thing that we can do practically, is believe Jesus when he says that. So how do we do that? Well, spend time with him every day. I found that as I am spending more time in the Word, I am more at peace and I'm finding more rest. A little every day, 1 day in every 7 days, 1 week for every 7 weeks, 1 year for every 7 years. And I don't think it means that we have to stop doing everything and just sit. But I think that we can ask God to give us rest within our busyness. Do something that strengthens and encourages you. For me, I need to get back to running. I need to get back out in the hills, in the dirt, in the trees, and run, because that's what feeds my soul. That's where I find myself really close to God. There was a few years ago when I first got into running, and I was doing a lot of it, and somebody told me that running had become my God. And I said, no, running is not my God. God is my God. But sometimes running is my church. Sometimes being out in nature, whether it's running or hiking or biking or just sitting by a lake or fishing or whatever, being out there in God's creation brings me closer to him than at any other time. Sometimes that's the rest that I need. If you can't take off time work, because you can't always take off a week every 7 weeks, wouldn't that be great? Dedicate a week at work to him and ask him to guide you in work that week. Just start the week with, God, this week is yours. Now, yeah, we want to live every day for God. We are his. We have died in Christ and no longer live, but he lives through us. I just read that this morning, and I thought, even though we do that every day, we still need to make a special effort once a week to dedicate the day to the Lord. And once every 7 weeks, dedicate a week to him. See what happens. See what happens if you take a whole week and say, God, this is your week, and get out of his way and let see what he will do through you. I'll let you know when I figure out a way to take a year off every 7 years. And if you figure it out, you let me know, because we'll do that together. But I think it still has to do with dedicating our efforts to him and asking him for rest in him while we work. I need to incorporate more rest in God in what I'm doing every single day. Number 2, get real rest. Take a nap. As I get older, I find naps are really awesome. Like I said, I'm a school teacher, and this last week I've been off. I'm taking a lot of naps. I take probably 2 naps a day while I'm on vacation. I wake up, I have breakfast, I go back and, do my little devotional and fall asleep and wake up again and try to get some things done and maybe take a nap in the afternoon while I'm watching TV. And, it's just, and I will tell you that taking a vacation is really good for your soul. And you all know that We all know that, and we don't do it often enough. We need to take a vacation. God says we need to take a week every 7 weeks, and a year every 7 years. Even the earth needs to replenish. If you see, it's the 1 year off every 7 years is still a farming principle. Every 5 to 7 years, you'll see that farmers will have one field that's just not planted. It's not because they don't want to grow stuff. It's because every few years, God says 7, every few years, the soil needs to rejuvenate its nutrients so that it will grow healthier crops. If you continue to work the soil, it gets weak. And you know what? So do we. We need to get rejuvenated. We need a break. Spend a weekend away or at home doing something that feeds your soul. Leave your work at the office. So I know there's some other teachers here, and I know people that aren't teachers do the same thing, but I'll have a big stack of papers to grade, and I'll take them home with me, and I'll set them on the counter, and then I'll pick them up and take them back to school the next day. And I just will not grade papers at home. I'd rather stay at work a little longer and get it done and go home without the work. Or get behind. Don't tell my students this, but sometimes the homework that's not graded piles up a little bit. And after a while, I look at it and I go, they all got 20 out of 20. Done with that. Okay, now that caught up, I can move on. The students don't mind. Also, spending time with your spouse, your kids, your family, just spend some quality time with them. I have to tell you, I'm a little embarrassed to say that in the last week, I've watched 2.5 seasons of Glee. I'm even more embarrassed to say that I actually like it, and I will be checking my man card at the door. So, done with that. But you know what? Sitting there with my kids, watching mindless entertainment, and laughing and making comments. It used to drive me nuts when my parents, especially my grandparents, would watch something, and every time they would watch a show, they would talk about all the other shows that actor has been. Oh, I saw them in such and such. Well, now I do that. In fact, now my kids do that, and we all sit there and do that together. And with technology, we pull up the IMDb database, IMDb, whatever it is, International Movie Database, and we're looking at what movie were they in, what character did they play, and we're always doing that. So spending that time with my family, as silly as it may sound, is really restful for me. But then another one, spend time alone. We really need to spend some time alone. When I was thinking about this message, I feel a little bad for my wife because I'm sitting in a room, just sitting, quiet, just by myself. I had a little video going on YouTube, and she walked in the room, and I got up and left. And then she came upstairs to where I went, and I got up and left again, and she thought I was mad at her. I was not. But sometimes you just need to spend some time alone. Finally, the third thing, there's a word in the Bible that I used to think was just an untranslatable word scattered through the Psalms. And the word is Selah. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right, but that's the way I'm going to say it. Selah. And I just recently found out that it actually is an instruction to the worshiper, an instruction to stop and listen. So maybe one word isn't such a bad idea after all. And I'm going to go back to that one word theme. And my one word this year is Selah. I want to stop and listen. I know there's times that we all get overwhelmed, that we all feel broken. And so I asked Dustin to share a song with us at the end of my message about that overwhelming feeling. And he's going to tell the story of this song. But for me, it's about holding on to God and letting God hold on to us and getting the rest that we need. So,
yeah, this is it's always been a very meaningful song for me. So I'm happy to sing it. I wrote it, I've mentioned before that I know the reality of depression and anxiety. Him and I are friends, or actually we hate each other, but I know him well. And so I wrote this song. The song came about. I was actually hanging out with my family, and we were downstairs in my living room playing games together. And I just knew that I was having a hard time centering my heart. I was pretty sad, pretty bummed out, and I was so frustrated to have to, even in the midst of hanging out with my family, to have to wrestle with those things. And so I went upstairs once we were finished, and I wrote this song. And out of respect for you guys, the song originally has very strong language in it. It was just me in my prayer, and then me just talking honesty to God, and God, at least I believe that there's a difference between disrespect and honest brokenness. And so in honest brokenness, I wrote a song, but I'm going to just censor it for us today. But the reason I tell you that, rather than just sing it and not tell you that it was written uncensored, is just so that to resonate with what Kirk said, and that is, it's okay sometimes to not be okay. And I've just learned that it's okay to not be okay. And so this is a song I wrote when I wasn't okay. In the chorus, my wife will sing the chorus, and it's just a reminder that I've never gone so far that he's going to let go of me. And so Jess kind of sings the response of God part. It goes like this. I've been known to hide, but it's not what you think. I'm learning how to try to notice when I'm about to sink. We all live to die, it's just how we were made. It's funny how we try to think that we'll outlive the grave. That we'll outlive the grave. It's sunny where you are, but I'm in pouring rain. We live in different worlds, but our street name is the same. Like cancer in my soul, I feel my heart give up its life. Even though I am a mess, you're my surgeon and the knife, yeah. You're my surgeon and the knife.
Just hold on, I'm not letting go. I won't let you go. Just hold on, I'm not letting go. I won't let you go.
Fear has me in chains, and depression is my cell. Lonely calls me friend, and this sadness hurts like hell. But I'm not giving in, no, no, no. I've got too much on the line. You can take away my world, as long as I still call you mindless. Jesus, I still call you mine. Oh.
Just hold on, I'm not letting go. I won't let you go. Just hold on, I'm not letting go. I won't let you go.
If you want, we can sing it together.
Just hold on, I'm not letting go.
I won't let you go. Yeah, say
Just hold on,
I won't let
you go.
I'm not letting go. One more time, say
Just hold on,
I'm not
let you go. Oh, just hold on. I'm not letting go. I won't let you go. Oh.
You guys, the finally part of the notes there, a couple of things. First of all, we all feel crushed, but we're not abandoned. And God is not going to let go of us. And this is really important, you're not alone, because there's at least two of us here that sometimes go through that same thing, and I bet there's more. And so if you're feeling crushed, then come into Jesus' rest. Get the rest that you need. Hold on. Get whatever it is you need to get your strength back. And God has it for you. And then after you get that rest, get back to work. Because God has some incredible things for us to do in this next year. And we need to be strong and we need to be healthy in order to do it. So I don't want to have this be a downer message taking us into the new year. And it really isn't. It's a message of hope. It's a message of courage. It's a message of strength. And that strength comes from resting in Jesus. Let me pray for us. Father, thank you so much for all that you can do with broken people. Thank you for sending Jesus. He's already suffered for us. We don't need to suffer. We can come into his rest. Help us to remember that daily. Help us to dedicate a little time every day, a day every week. Every so often we need to dedicate more time to you. And please help us to know when we need to do that so that we can find the rest we need in you so that we can go forward and do the work that you have for us to do. We love you, Father. We love you for loving us first. And we pray that as we go forward this new year, we will get rejuvenated, re-strengthened, encouraged to go forward and do all of the great things that you have already prepared for us to do. In Jesus' name, amen.